Right, welcome everyone to the Gender Equity Commission February 2022 meeting. If you don't know who I am, my name is Morgan Overton. I am serving as acting chair of the Gender Equity Commission, and we are going to get started with our roll call. So I'm going to just go in order of who is on my screen. Commissioner Ramey. Was there a second ago? She might appear in another second. Commissioner Manuel.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Hanson.
Present.
I see your smile, Commissioner Ramey. Okay. Commissioner Davidson.
Present.
Commissioner Coffey.
Present.
Commissioner Newman.
Present.
Commissioner Gross.
Here.
Commissioner Overton, that's me. All right, so thank you everyone for being here. Hope you're all staying warm. Thank you, Marcel, for sending me the January 2022 meeting minutes. Hopefully you all got a chance to take a look at that. They're on the meeting folder for February. Do we have any discussion before we approve those minutes? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of January 22? That you?
Yes, motion to approve.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. All right. January 22 minutes are signed, sealed, and delivered. And one thing that I do want to make clear, and this is kind of a guiding principle for me, I made this clear during our working meeting for the commission, is that we are in a new phase in the city of Pittsburgh. We have a new mayoral administration that is going through the ringer right now, and bless their hearts, with 80,000 snowstorms, bridges, tragedies around the city. They have been handling it with such grace and dignity. And I just want them to know that we recognize that as the Gender Equity Commission. We recognize that we are an entity of the mayor's office as well as city council. So we are here to make their job easier and work in partnership with them and in alignment with them. So I just wanted that to ground us in the work that we do moving forward, because much of the work that we do is shaped by how they are transitioning, but also this is a bi-directional relationship. So before we advocate for anybody else, we got to advocate for ourselves first. So I just wanted that to be said. Also, unfortunately, Commissioner Hale is not able to join us today, but she did send over her CDAW report. I dropped that in the February meeting folder for all of you to take a look at. I don't expect you to have looked at that within the last 30 minutes, but that is there for your reference. I don't know if any committees had any updates or anything that they wanted to report out for the commission or for just the greater good. Yes, Commissioner Manuel.
On behalf of the Workforce Equity Committee, I just want to say, we want to say thank you for everyone that supported us and attended our training sessions that were held in 2021. We had a training session on for 2022 on January 26th, and there were over 30 attendees. So I want to again thank everyone who was in attendance. Please note that we will have more virtual training sessions, but for the month of February, you will be able to find it on the Gender Equity Commission website, where we are going to be posting a link where you can go online and do a self-paced training session. It will still count toward our goal of training 7,500 women and girls in a 5-year time frame. And then in March, we will kick off again an additional virtual online training session. We hope that in 2022, that we will be able to start having in-person training sessions with, we have a lot of committed partners who have expressed interest in hosting on-site venues for us. And we are hoping and believing that the later part of 2022, we will be able to do that. But in the meantime, go on the web page for the GEC, and we'll be able to share that information of how they can do respective online training, self-paced, and it's pittsburghpa.gov /GEC. That will get you to that respective website. And then you'll click on the workforce equity, and we'll be posting the link on that web page. So that way anyone can continue and support the injustice with this pay equity between women and men. So thank you to my fellow commissioners who also attended the January session and even the previous sessions. But I know last month it was a blast. We had Commissioner Jessie Ramey, and she had a great group of people with her. And then Commissioner Jaleesa Coffey also was present. So I just want to say thank you so much for them attending and bringing their friends. And I know that Commissioner Gross had made a call out to her constituents, and they joined. And Commissioner Hanson has already told me she's got a group lined up. She already gave us a group, but she's going to give us another big group in March. So we're looking forward to the support. Again, the work of the workforce equity workshops is to help us educate on the gender pay gap. And we all know that women make less than men. And when you speak specifically about minority women, African-American, Latina, again, they make even less. They make lesser, I should say. So join us in this approach of trying to do our best to eliminate the gender pay gap, and then make sure that we enable workforce equity. So thank you.
Drop the mic. Thank you, Janet. Are there any comments or questions related to what Janet just reported out? Or else we can move on to another committee report if that's ready for the group. Well, I think one thing that Commissioner Manuel said is that one thing that sticks out to me is that we are a village. Jaleesa, I saw that you came on camera. I don't know if you wanted to report out on behalf of the governance and leadership.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we met the last couple of months, just really talking about how to best support the work of the commission moving forward, given the transition of the administration and our, and us not having a staff person at this time. Obviously, last month we supported nominations, and now that we have an opening on our executive committee, just talking a little bit more about opening nominations again so that we can fill the role of chair or first vice chair, depending on what acting chair Overton would like to do. So that is kind of where our conversations are now. And then also just talking a little bit about how we'll be moving forward with, or talking a little bit more to the executive committee about bylaws. It's that time to talk about bylaws and that work. So that is our report for the month. And if there's anything that any other commissioners have for us, happy to hear that now, or always open to receiving any emails.
Thank you, Commissioner Coffey. Any suggestions, comments, questions for Commissioner Coffey? In any other committees, this is now your chance. If not, that's fine.
Can briefly speak as co-chair of the Gender Analysis Committee.
Yes.
So we did submit our report to be included in the annual report, and welcome folks' comments. primarily because we did have a suggestion for actions that we were planning to take this year. And we will not act without the GEC's approving of those actions. So they are mentioned in the report, and they are probably also highly dependent on the completion of the mayoral transition. So we welcome folks to take a look at those. And we are meeting in March. So if there are any questions, we will be meeting before the coming GEC March meeting. So if folks do have any questions or suggestions for us, please let us know, and we'll be happy to include those on our agenda for our meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Hansen. Okay, I think that does it for our committees. The work continues, you all, and much of what informs and if not makes our work more robust is the power of our relationships, the power of us being a village. And that is why we are committed to ensuring that the folks who are on the front lines of this work have the spotlight and do get the chance to share. So I do see Bryn Young on here. Hi, Bryn. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that we said 4:15, but if you're ready to go at 4:12, this is this is your time. But Bryn, do you mind giving an introduction of yourself? Explain why you're here, why we invited you, which aligns very much so with our work in pay equity. But just give us a brief background, and the stage is yours.
So, thank you, Morgan. My name is Bryn Young. I'm actually a public policy associate with the Black Women's Policy Center. Many of you may have known it as a Black Women's Policy Agenda previously. I am also the campaign coordinator for the Pay Equity campaign coming out of Pittsburgh and covering greater Mon Valley region. The reason I am here today is because Miss Janet so thankfully extended you guys' platform to us because we are trying to make the best out of a partnership with the GEC and sort of build off of the work that they have done so massively in Pittsburgh. They've built a foundation for us, and we are just here to build on it and strengthen it wherever we can. We will be giving a quick little summary and introductions once the chairs get on. So we are expecting Angela Reynolds from the YWCA, Rochelle Jackson from the Black Women's Policy Center, as well as Alexis Walker from the Women and Girls Foundation. So once they get on, we will give a little bit more of an overview of the Pay Equity campaign, and I will delve a little bit deeper into the work that we have done and what we are planning on doing for this year. So I think we just might need a few more minutes for them to log on.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you. And I just wanted to acknowledge your presence here and give you a chance to introduce yourself. We really do appreciate you joining and spending your time with us because, like I said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? I mean, we tend to work in silos in Allegheny County, and the commission has the chance to just reel everybody in and actually build bridges. We love to say that we're, a region of bridges, but we don't act like it, right? So I'm really glad that we have this opportunity to hear from you and the other phenomenal women who are at the front lines of this work, and continue to collaborate because that's all we have at the end of the day.
Right.
And so for anybody watching, if you are part of an organization or if your work is aligned with the Gender Equity Commission and you would like to come and present your work, please reach out to us. Please email us. We would be happy to host you. So we'll give a couple of minutes for the other presenters to come on board. But were there any new updates or new business or any announcements from fellow commissioners that commissioners would benefit from or from the public, even if that's just an event coming up that people would benefit from or anything for the greater good? Commissioner Gross?
Sure. Hi, thank you. It's Deb Gross with Pittsburgh City Council. And I just wanted to remind commissioners and the listening public that City Council late last year passed new regulations around lead abatement. that are set to roll out in the middle of 2022. And so we're working with the administrative departments now on how this will be enforced. It will be actually in the inspection and maintenance code. One of the things that we know is that lead most dramatically affects children and pregnant women. And we also have begun to see data from the blood poisoning data from testing children. And we see that in the city, that those blood poisonings really overlap with our most disinvested neighborhoods, where we have our poorest citizens who, and we know that 70% of our poor citizens are female-headed households with children in them. This is a big quality of life improvement that we just haven't been enforcing our kind of city powers around for a very long time. So it's long overdue. So we will be ensuring that people are bringing their rental units. Most of our poor citizens are renters, bringing them up to code and public health compliance, and hopefully bringing down those lead poisonings and just kind of bringing up again the living quality for residential units. So really looking forward to that, and we'll keep you posted on how that rolls out. And we've allocated funding, and again, worked for over a year with Get the Lead Out, which is a countywide coalition of a lot of public health entities on that legislation. And it's been a really fabulous partnership so far.
Thank you. And where can people continue to follow the trajectory of this work?
There'll be announcements from, especially the Department of the Permits, Licenses, and Inspections, where they've hired up 4 new inspectors, and it will be coordinated with our finally enforcing a rental registry. And again, in a city where 65% of the population are renters, and too much of those units are substandard units that really don't meet regulations. That's the new power that we have been in litigation with the state about for many years, but it's finally been clarified, and we should be able to enforce a rental registry, hold landlords accountable, and get investments in those properties.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Were there any other announcements before we move on to our guests?
Acting Chair Overton, did you want to give a hint of our upcoming birthday?
Oh, I feel like you should do it. I think you're a cheerleader for the commission.
Listen, I'm always ready to celebrate and have a party, but and then I'm going to give it to you, and then I think our guest may be on. But that is, March of 2018 is when the commission was established, and so we are turning 4 years old next month. And so we are, as a commission, we'll be planning some activities. You will hear more about it. This is a teaser, yes. And the teaser is we are turning 4, and we want you to come and celebrate with us. And we are planning various activities regarding the City of Pittsburgh Gender Equity Commission turning 4 years old. What will those activities be? Well, stay tuned, stay focused on the webpage of the GEC, pittsburghpa.gov/GEC. We will have that stuff posted to let everyone know what we are going to be doing to celebrate the commission turning 4 years old. Anything else? Acting Chair Overton? So we want to celebrate. It's a party. Who doesn't like a party?
We can take any goodness we can get these days. So thank you, Janet, for letting the people know we are having our 4th birthday. We are a toddler, y'all. So we are growing and getting strong. Are there any other announcements? Because I do see Miss Angela Reynolds just joined us. Hello.
Hello, I thought I saw Bryn on as well. Oh, there she goes. You moved on my boxes. I don't know if the information changed from the link that just came through, so I'm not sure if it's a different link, or other members might be accessing that one. Is it the same link?
Should be the same link.
Okay, all right, great.
The new link says like it starts at 2:30 until 3:30.
Ooh.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Bryn, do you have Rochelle's where you can text her? And if you can just give me a moment, I'm just gonna, I'll text Alexis.
Yeah. Let's make sure everybody got the links. Yes, Commissioner Ramey.
Well, while we're doing that, I'll be happy to provide an announcement of a upcoming event. We have a Just Film series that screens documentaries about gender justice issues every month. That's a collaboration between the Chatham Women's Institute, the Center for Women, run by NCJW, Women's Law Project, the Women and Girls Foundation, and the YWCA, all wonderful community partners, all brand new documentaries about gender and social justice. And then we have a panel discussion afterwards. So the next film is about early childhood education, which is something that this body has taken up as an issue. We've had guest speakers come and talk to us about the importance of this gender equity topic. That film is going to be on March 9th in the evening, 6:30. It's called No Small Matters. These are all new documentaries usually made by women filmmakers. And then we'll have a panel discussion afterwards, organized by those community partners. So I invite you to check out Just Films, PGH on online. You can get more information. That's a wonderful monthly program that's always out there being hosted by those 5 different community partners who do a lot of work with the Gender Equity Commission as well.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Are we good with our other friends? Are they?
We reached out, but Bryn and I can get started,
Okay.
and hopefully they will join us, and then we can just loop them into the discussion. So first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity to come and to connect. I have, Janet, so I had an opportunity to participate in your salary negotiation training. It was excellent. And that was not part of my comments, but I just wanted to say that it was very informative. And so we definitely want to connect and see if there are some ways that we can help in terms of promotion. We've been promoting on our social media. I know several of my team members, when I shared it with my staff, and because I wanted them to know, like, use the skills and, let's talk about it and come through. And when Bryn talks, she can introduce herself. But again, really grateful for this opportunity and to figure out how can we better collaborate with the Gender Equity Commission and the collaborative that we've joined together in terms of the Pay Equity Campaign. So it is Black Women's Policy Center, Black Women's Policy Agenda, Women and Girls Foundation, and YWCA Greater Pittsburgh. And so just a little bit about our organization. And then Bryn, if you can say a bit about Black Women's Policy Center as you go into your comments, if Rochelle doesn't come on. But YWCA Greater Pittsburgh, just so you're aware, over 150 years old, has been at the forefront of issues related to racial justice and gender equity for like over a century, right? And so looking at that, I joined the organization in February of 2020, and definitely a time of transition, to say the least, but also at a time when YWCA Greater Pittsburgh had made a commitment to go deeper into our mission of eliminating racism. So our mission is eliminating racism, empowering women. Many people knew us for the latter and not for the former. And so as we came together and say, like, how do you operationalize eliminating racism and empowering women and break it into something where we can actually achieve and start to have some outcomes that we can measure? I looked at that intersection of race and gender, and I believe that's where our sweet spot is as an organization. And then fast forward, and some opportunities that presented themselves for us to accelerate where we were going in terms of our mission and to really expand on that work. Looked back at some of the things that YWCA had done in the past related to gender equity. One of them was in 2014 or 2016. I'll look at the actual date. that they had partnered with WQED on a documentary related to 50 years of equal pay, and very interesting there. And so saying, like, how do we actually start to move the needle? And I also want to be forthright in saying at that time also went to my board with some recommendations that had come out of your 2019 study on inequality in Pittsburgh around race and gender, some recommendations that had come out of the Pittsburgh Foundation's study of single mothers through their 100% campaign, and then also some recommendations that had come from YWCA USA on their She Session. And to say, working with others, I believe we can start to move the needle. We can't do everything. So where do we actually begin to focus? And at the intersection of race and gender, part of that mission expansion was to say, can we do something around this issue of pay equity? I've been hearing about it for years. It continues to be an issue. Have colleagues who are continuing to have to report their salary history. Can we actually start to make some changes and we have these great studies, but now let's actually move on these recommendations. What can we do as an organization to support the work that the Gender Equity Commission and Pittsburgh Foundation and others have put forth? And then at that time, again, an opportunity arose. So I reached out to Heather Arnay over at Women and Girls Foundation and Rochelle Jackson at Black Women's Policy Center and said, you're working on these issues as well. Can the three of us come together as that core group to get things started? And then we build out from there. And so from that, Bryn will talk a bit about Black Women's Policy Center and the work that they do, and then lead into the actual work of the Pay Equity Campaign. But from that initial conversation, the Pay Equity Campaign was born. Again, not new, but just saying, how can we leverage our individual work? I have an existing relationship with you. You trust me, I trust you. And so come on, let's just get to work. Like I know you well enough to say, let's get to work, and then we'll bring other people along to actually also like figure out what does that work look like. Bryn?
It's always so hard to follow up after you, Angela. Everything is so beautifully covered and powerhouse. With that being said, I work on behalf of the Black Women's Policy Center as a public policy associate. I'm actually still at Carlos studying political science in my last semester. So hopefully graduating this May. I joined whenever the Black Women's Policy Center was the Black Women's Policy Agenda as an intern lent out through Denny Civic Social Solutions. And I joined a little bit with Rochelle just to offer a little more insight as DCS's only person of color on their team. So helped Rochelle out a little bit where I could as an intern. And then in the summer of last year, I was fully hired on. And in November, I joined the Pay Equity Campaign. So this is all pretty new to me, and everything is just growing and building on everything else that's been done in the city of Pittsburgh and the Mon Valley region. So like everyone's saying, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to get this on a t-shirt, we are not reinventing the wheel. We're just building on what's already there. And it's already an amazingly stable foundation. And I don't think we could be, more lucky to have joined a platform like the GECs today in order to be able to explain what we've done and what we are intending to do in the upcoming years, because this is going to be a long process, and the sooner we get started, the more work we'll have done. So with that being said, I will jump a little bit into the process that we've been working on as the PEC. So I wanted to give a little bit of background information on our planning committee, since that is the smallest portion of the Pay Equity Campaign. And I think per the name, the planning committee is essentially designed to take back any ideas that we've heard from the steering committee, any concerns, and look at them under a more precise and closer scope. The planning committee is comprised of all of the chairs from the Pay Equity Campaign, including myself, Miss Angela Reynolds, Alexis Walker, Rochelle. There's not that many of us on the planning committee, which is really good because it keeps everything nice and concise, and we're able to get things set and done. At the moment, it's the portion of the campaign that's essentially designed to put forth unprecedented amounts of effort to lift the work off the ground that's being introduced in our steering committee, which is absolutely massive right now. And we're just looking to build on it as we go along, because, you know, like Miss Morgan Overton said, the more we have, the more bridges we build, the stronger we'll be. And we are the city of bridges. So let's not be like the one we recently saw on the news and build something nice and strong. So moving forward with a little info on the steering committee, it would take me forever to go through everyone who's on our steering committee. So I'll just start by saying that it is extremely diverse, and it's a multi-sector steering committee. We have individuals represented by, you know, corporations, foundations, retail work, retail food, grassroots, healthcare, the GEC. I mean, the list could go on forever if I sat here and actually broke down everyone who's on our steering committee. And honestly, the more the merrier, because we get so many ideas and different walks of life and viewpoints out of the steering committee. And it really makes you look at the things that I think a lot of really big or really small steering committees tend to miss because they're not as diverse. So with that being said, I don't think I can stress enough how thankful we are for the extension of the platform with the GEC. And our goal is to essentially build on the work of the GEC, and we hope to go countywide, not just stay in Pittsburgh, because as we know, this issue is not just a Pittsburgh issue. And we are also trying to build in other efforts, like including representatives of, you know, places like Bear. So we're definitely reaching out and extending a hand wherever we can and pulling in anyone that we can. Which has actually proven to be really useful for us. And we're actually, you know, pushing things forward, and it's not just a lot of talk. So with that being said, I want to go on to the next steps that we are actually looking at. Our next steering committee meeting is February 25th. So it is quickly approaching, which means we have been in the works of getting a lot of things pushed forward. At the moment, I am looking at a few local policies in the state of PA, so starting with Pittsburgh and as well as our sister city of Philadelphia. One that I recently discovered was PA House Bill 2024, which was introduced by Representative Mary Louise Isaacson in the 2019-2020 legislative session. Unfortunately, it was DOA as soon as it hit the House, but the reason it was introduced was to essentially put one of our biggest commitments as the Pay Equity Campaign on the table, which is salary transparency. And it was designed to basically bring up the issue of not providing salary ranges on or during any part of the hiring process, which is a major issue whenever it comes to closing the wage equity gap, or the wage gap. So that bill was co-sponsored by a variety of legislators. And at the moment, we are looking at low-hanging fruit, so things to get behind as far as policies, especially in the transition year. It's essentially to get things done. And the other one that I'm sure many of you may know about is Philadelphia's bill number 160840, which was signed into laws and ordinance by their mayor. And it was designed to eliminate any and all wage history questions, salary history questions, which is extremely huge when it comes to any legislation passed in PA, because as much as we want to be progressive and everything, it's very hard to get anything passed as far as closing the wage gap. And Philadelphia's ordinance is massive, and it's definitely something that we look up to and that we hope to enforce similar bills in the future. And I think that the work that went into Philadelphia passing that ordinance could easily, well, I don't want to say easily because we've seen how easy it's been trying to close the wage gap, but it's definitely something to get behind. So we are looking into things with a more fine-tooth comb. And we've had help from people like Vibrant Pittsburgh, or organizations like Vibrant Pittsburgh, who have helped facilitate things in our steering committee, which are inclusive of subgroups. And out of those, we created the advocacy, policy, and education subgroups. Without going into all of, everything that was able to come out of them, because it was quite a lot. I do want to mention that our education group mentioned that we should focus on two audiences, which would be the employers and the employees. I think in this work, we tend to get a little bit drowned out by who, you know, constitutes these campaigns rather than who they're focused on. And we do want to continuously place emphasis on the fact that we are working with employees and employers just as much as anybody else. They are the focal point, considering this is the work that we do. And we want to close the wage gap as quickly and effectively as possible. Also, out of the subgroups, we were able to pull 3 primary actions and a list of commitments that we're going to try to tackle. But with the actions, we pulled considerations like a pledge, both an employee and employer guidebook, as well as a report card, which we would like to be external, you know, for data protection reasons. And we still want to place additional emphasis on employers and employees. So with that being said, we also would like to mention that the pledge is in its final stages. Both myself and Rochelle Jackson from the BWPC have finalized our end of the pledge, and the goal is to have it finalized by the steering committee on the 25th. So one of the biggest portions of the pay equity campaign is going to be done in less than a year, which is absolutely amazing, to say the least. And we will also be looking to finalize our agenda during that meeting, just so that we have something nice and concrete to get out there to everybody and sort of let people know, like, this is real and this is happening. We have also started promoting salary negotiation trainings, which is also a nice moving piece. And we hope to keep up with the promotion back and forth and let everyone know, like, the pay equity campaign and the GEC are definitely, like, it's here to stay. And again, we are definitely interested in a close and, you know, very professional and tight partnership with the GEC. And we would definitely love to hear more about how they would like us to be engaged and vice versa. So with that being said, if there's any questions that you guys have for us, please feel free to ask, and we will try to answer them to the best of our ability. Thank you.
If I can just interject a couple of things. Wonderful job, Bryn. Thank you so much. So we are extremely grateful for Amanda Nitro and her role on the steering committee. She was, when I asked her to step up and chair the subcommittee on education, she agreed to do it. I also want to make sure that we have continuity in terms of representation from the GEC. And, you know, she's committed, but then I also understand that there's a time period where she will not be able to be involved. And so want to take this opportunity during this meeting if there is someone who could come alongside. And it doesn't mean you can't both be on, you can both be on, but just want to make sure that we have some continuity there. The other piece is to say we are completely applaud the great work that's been done in the city of Pittsburgh. And we often hear, well, what about outside the city? And what about outside the city employees? And what do we do for the county? And as Bryn mentioned, we have representatives on the steering committee who are not only countywide, but they're also multi-state. And we have brought our partners from YWCA Butler, YWCA Westmoreland on. And then once we set the agenda, my plan is to take that to the Pennsylvania zone of YWCAs, which is 19 YWCAs across the state. So we are really looking at how do we affect change at the state level. And then I see that I'm on twice, and that's because I shared my link. So I wanted to find out who the other Angela is. So it's either Rochelle or Alexis. Oh, it looks like they're still muted. Okay. Well,
Oh, I think it's me, Alexis.
Okay. Great. Alexis, is there anything you wanted to say before we open it up for Q&A?
Just that I really appreciate the opportunity and being able to plan with you all. I think this is such an important initiative. And it really just speaks to the work that we're doing here in Pittsburgh and how we can make it a more equitable place for women of color. So I'm just grateful to be able to be a part of this experience and for the help of all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. And if you don't mind just giving like a brief introduction of your role and all the great things that you do.
Hey everyone. Sorry. My name is Alexis Walker. I work for the Women and Girls Foundation as one of the Girl Gov program managers, which is a teen civic engagement program that serves teenage girls and gender expansive youth all throughout Southwestern Pennsylvania. And my role is just basically being a part of the planning committee, and I'm also on the education component of this. So there's a quick little intro.
Thank you, Alexis. I used to direct the Girl Gov program, so everyone's family here. Thank you so much for this amazing and comprehensive presentation. I will definitely open it up to my fellow commissioners, but it just gives me so much hope knowing that these efforts are happening in Pittsburgh and people need to know about it, because I think it's so easy, you know, just to reference our report very quickly for people to be like, oh no, I can't, no, I gotta get out of Pittsburgh, there's just no hope. But then I see in spaces with people like you all, and I'm like, no, we can turn this around. And there are people here who are thriving and being the solution. So thank you so much for sharing your work. I think the $1 million question I have is, how can the GEC help you? How can we continue to really make our partnership robust here?
And that's a dual question as well. So the first place is where I started in terms of making sure that we have continuity. And again, if there are efforts that we're putting forth, if you already have some experience. So for example, we are working to ban salary history. We already know that it perpetuates inequities. And as I've said on the panels before, people know what they budgeted for the position. So just pay people what you're going to pay them and pay them their worth. It's not hard, but it doesn't mean that there isn't some pushback from people on that. So if there are lessons that you've learned in trying to push that forward, we would definitely like to hear that. And again, with having your voice on the steering committee, that would help us in moving forward. Also understanding, we want to know where you might have challenges because you're City of Pittsburgh Gender Equity Commission. And so we want to make sure that we're working in conjunction. So as you're doing things at the city level, knowing that ours is broader county and Southwestern PA, where can we come alongside and support? So that's the first piece. The other one is, as Bryn mentioned, there are some, like what we see as like low hanging types of things. So the salary negotiation training, that was one when Amanda brought it to us. I didn't know it was happening. And we were hearing there should be training on salary negotiation. And then it's like, there is, right? And so then how do we take that and promote it? And so if you could continue to share that with us, and then we can promote that through our platforms and push it out there. Again, hoping that you're okay with the fact that it's going to be beyond the City of Pittsburgh borders. So some of the people that are attending those. One of the things that we're also, that I was going to speak with you offline, but we can go ahead and put it out there, is how can we make those more accessible? So as part of our campaign, we're also recognizing that there are immigrant and refugee populations that should be included in this discussion as well. So how do we bring that in? And so we were being very purposeful in making sure that we were diverse in our voices. And so even understanding there are generational differences. And would you be willing, as we build this partnership and go forward, to be able to maybe have some trainings that are tailored, that are in different languages or that are translated? How do we take this and bring our efforts together to make it bigger and broader? And then the other piece is Bryn and Alexis bring a wonderful voice to my voice, Rochelle's and Heather's. And I'm just going to say it frankly, they're a different generation. And so how do we support younger women who are starting in their careers, and many of whom are saying, well, this is my first job. What happens if I, put forth these things and, I go for the negotiation? What if they take the offer back, right? And so how do we provide those supports and whether or not the Gender Equity Commission would be willing to, one thing that came up was how do we have mentors for beyond the training? And so I went through the training, now I've actually got to do it, right? And so coming through and how can we build on what you're doing with the AAUW and be able to provide those supports. So that's just a few places where we've already started thinking. Oh, and Rochelle has joined us. A few places where we've already started thinking in terms of how we could partner together and be stronger. And Bryn and I can share the list of who's on the steering committee. If there's anyone on that's glaringly missing, we would love to have your help and support on getting that resolved. Hello, Rochelle.
Hi, my apologies, everyone. It was not on my calendar, and I'm looking. I'm like, wait a minute, is there something supposed to be happening today? I apologize. I know I'm late to the party, but I just wanted to show my face. I just wanted to give you my sincere apologies that I overlooked the date and time. And I wanted to just jump on before everybody kind of logged off. So I'm very sorry.
Yes, well, we love you, Rochelle, and you don't ever have to apologize. We're happy that you're just had enough time to be in this space with us, because I know you are Superwoman out here in Pittsburgh. But Miss Angela, I just wanted to lift up everything that you recommended, because I really do think that our partnership can build on each other's strengths. And one thing that Janet and I were thinking about was how do we target different constituency groups, right? Because, when we have these trainings, they tend to, often bring an echo chamber of people that don't even really need it for real, but they join it just to support. So how do we, become more targeted in who we are trying to reach out to, right? Like the different generations, right? Being more inclusive of immigrants and refugees. And we have Sloan Davidson here on the commission, who that is her line of work, right? So I think that we can tap into the different networks and expertise that everybody has so that this is a collective and robust effort. Also allow commissioners and Janet, who chairs the Workforce Equity Committee, to speak and offer any words.
It took me a hot minute to get off of mute. First of all, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Listen, your work is on fire. And I promise you, Bryn has said it, Angela has said it, and I promise you by the end of this week, you will know who from the GEC will step on and participate on the meeting February 25th. If you let us know the time, that could also help us with our conversation, but we will have some representation. What time is that meeting?
9:30 to 11 a.m.
Okay. All right. You will hear from us, from Morgan and I, by the end of this week as to somebody's going to be there, I promise you. But to answer the question of how can you guys help, support the GEC, the first phase of the workforce equity definitely is the training that we are doing. That's just the first prong of our three-prong approach, right? And that is empowering individuals and conducting the respective training sessions, the Work Smart training sessions for free. We are going to be rolling out, hopefully by the end of this year, what is known as the Pittsburgh Workforce Equity Council. And we are looking forward to having you guys join us in that effort. There will be more information to come on what exactly the Workforce Equity Council means, what that work involves, but it's really just being that highlight person of like-mindedness, supporting this work and being that solid foundation. I'm even going to ask Sarah to chime in and talk in a little bit more about the Workforce Equity Council, because her and I and Amanda are part of the original Workforce Equity Committee. And then we spun off into the new Workforce Equity Committee. But we do see, your work and what you're doing and how it really can help us join forces for the next phase of the Workforce Equity Council, which is the second prong approach. You mentioned policy. That's the third prong approach. on this whole concept of the workforce equity. One is empowering individuals, the Workforce Equity Council, and then policy interventions. So, you know, when you were speaking, I think I was even texting just my comments of, wow, this is going to be great. And I'm looking forward to the continued relationship, but I'm going to lean on Sarah just to talk just a little bit about Workforce Equity Council, just to give the ladies an understanding of what that means.
Sure, thank you, Janet. And I know Amanda shared with me that you all were reading the reports that we had written. So hopefully you have a sense of already where we were coming from this. We followed very closely and had meetings with members of the Boston Women's Workforce Council in the city of Boston. And great, nodding heads means you're probably already aware of that. And so when we were looking at bringing their great work to Pittsburgh, and Janet from the very beginning said, how do we Pittsburghize this? How do we make it work within our context? So we spent about a year, I think, just gathering information, understanding how might the city support this. And so the idea of the Workforce Equity Committee came from the understanding, I think that you all have had too, that this cannot be situated within the government. It needs to be outside, and there needs to be a strategic alliance between the government and the folks who are leading this work. And so we saw that committee or council as a way of collaborating to co-create an equity agenda. And the GEC's role would be supporting the translation of that agenda toward policy recommendations that would bring in that third prong. And so we had always envisioned, you know, when we thought about who's leading this work currently, your organizations came to mind immediately for us. And I think it was probably just, you know, with the pandemic and everything, just some miscommunication in terms of our wires not connecting prior to now. So I've been just so excited to hear that this work has come emergently from you all, and that it is so clearly aligned with what we had been envisioning with that council. So I think there's so much opportunity here. You know, I've heard a little bit from Amanda about the great things that she's been doing and seeing as part of the steering committee. So I'm very excited and agree with Morgan's question being the central one. How do we support and amplify your work?
Go ahead, Jessie.
Hand down there. Angela and Fran and Rochelle, hi, and welcome and thank you so much. And, you know, thank you again to Sarah and Janet and Amanda from this side of that work. It's just been tremendous to see where this is headed. And I'm so grateful to the three of you visiting with us today and talking about what we can do with a partnership. Sarah just said something that reminded me that we did launch a small initiative right before COVID, and COVID did have a tendency to take things apart, didn't it, Sarah? But the commission had actually noticed that the pay gap for Black women in Pittsburgh specifically is not reached until November 6th. And we had started thinking about ways of maybe messaging around that date. And we had some plans in place, and that was actually in January and February of 2020. And then COVID hit, and I think a big old pause got put on that. But I just wanted to bring that back up, because that was a finding that came right out of the report around how just horrible that pay gap is. And I know some of our organizations have done some work around messaging pay gap and used various dates, you know, April being one that's often mentioned, but that sort of disguises how bad it is for a lot of people, particularly for Black women. And I think August is nationally when we talk about that pay gap for Black women, but we know it's even worse in Pittsburgh. It's not until November 6th. So we actually did a little bit of that, calculating that math. So I just wanted to bring that back to the front of the conversation as our groups start thinking about how the education piece, the messaging piece, maybe using November as an opportunity to talk about the date. That's when we finally reach pay equity for all women in Pittsburgh, is November 6th.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I think that would be a great place for us to also collaborate. So last year, I can't believe it's been last year, Rochelle. So last year we publicly launched on Equal Pay Day for the National Equal Pay Day for Black women. And we launched with a campaign that included testimonials from women. And so we've been asking people to share their stories around equal pay and making sure that we were highlighting August, September, October. So we were bringing in, Black women, Native women, Indigenous women, and then also Latino women in October. And it's not that we were not doing all women or Asian women, but again, we publicly launched in August. And so we're getting prepared for March, which is coming up. And then as we speak on Asian women, we definitely want to make sure that people understand, just because we're saying Asian women are in March and, nationally, and Black women are August, doesn't mean that Asian women are doing well. And then also, or that we should lump all Asian women together, because we need to address diversities within populations. All of that to say, we're getting ready for the equal pay days and the differentiation, and it would be really nice to highlight those issues of, yes, nationally it's August for Black women, but it's not like that in Pittsburgh. And so if you'd be open to it, let's talk about how can we look at that campaign. And I don't know if you've had them run the numbers for other populations in Pittsburgh. So if we have it for Latino women in Pittsburgh, that would also be helpful. And Sloan, I'm reaching out to you because we have struggled with getting data on immigrant and refugee populations. And so we've seen a few studies, I know but most of the studies are referencing international work. So I don't know if you have any help and support that you could provide there. So those are two pieces. One, getting that data, and then also let's partner around the Equal Pay Day communications.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk to you about that. We have done a fair amount of research and also data collection on our own. And I absolutely have a few best practices we've developed, and then other things we've just heard throughout the region and actually nationally as well that helps capture more of that information.
Great. Thank you. And do you have the link to our Equal Pay Day website? So we can, I don't think I have access to the chat function, so I can send it to you via email so that you can see what was done. And if you want to add your voice and your story, that would be great.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I feel so fulfilled after this conversation. I feel like we have marching orders. I feel like we can really team up and build a heck of a collaborative here. I'm mindful that we are at 4:58 right now. Time flies when you're trying to challenge systemic issues. But I truly appreciate each of you for joining us. This is just a great way to kick off the year in our partnership with each other. We typically have policy updates from the mayor's office, but given that they're still in transition, we do not have that just yet, but hold on for that, folks. Also, for our folks at the city, are there any public comments from the community? William or Heather?
Right now, there is no one in the waiting room.
Okay, cool. So with that being said, this is, the first of many conversations, but I think the theme of today is that we got to get beyond conversation and move toward action and sustainable action. So I'm going to make sure that each of you have my email so we can continue to talk about this offline and start to plot and scheme for the greater good of Pittsburgh. Are there any other comments from commissioners or for any of our guests? Is there anything else you wanted to leave us off with? I think everybody's meditating on everything that was gained today. Well, we'll definitely continue this. I'm excited. I have this energy that I've needed, so thank you again. Can I get a motion to end the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
I second.
And all in favor to adjourn the meeting.
Bye.
All righty. All right, till next time and onward we go. We will be in touch. Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. See you next month for our 4th birthday.